For our training today, we're going to go through the POAM because I want you to understand the steps in the process. We're going to go through the statement of work and where you find the templates. The IGE and the technical evaluation is we're going to spend most of our time discussing because that seems to be the hardest piece for everybody right now. Then we're going to talk about, after the technical evaluation is all done, negotiation, and then the COR nomination process. So all of that is the pre-award process to get an AE task order in place. The POAM, and I typically, I on purpose put in, okay, today or yesterday, you had your design team kickoff. And as your design team is gathered, you recognize there's an AE task order needed. Let's take an in-house design as an example. We need site survey and geotech. The electricals need the groundwater information. We have other data that we need, or we're going to buy cost services, or we're going to buy some interior design. There's something that we need to do to supplement our in-house team and enable us to do our design. If you had that design kickoff meeting today, got two columns here. You'll see minimum calendar days for an action and what we said, maximum calendar days for an action. If it's on the maximum side, the task order award is going to happen October 19th. That's a long time from today. And you need to understand the impact of when you get that AE task order. That's just when the task order is awarded. That's not when you get the deliverable. So if I'm doing a design and my civil engineer needs the survey in order to start their work, and I'm not going to have the survey, I award it in October, maybe they get there to do the work in December, maybe I get the product in January. You know, the civil part of the job is the first part of the design, the site planning. So what's that do to my design deliverable? You know, am I really going to make March design completion on 100% design? I don't think so. So just getting an understanding of that up front so that you don't get blindsided, because I know when I started as a PM here, I thought, I need an AE task order? Okay, I'll write it up, I'll send it to acquisitions, next week we'll get a price, the next week we can award, and within a month they'll be on site and I'll get my stuff. Well, you know, it's a government process, it doesn't work that way. So, you know, you are the one that's going to prepare if you're the design lead or on the design team, you or someone on the team is going to write the statement of work, statement of engineering, the new SAES, Statement of Architectural Engineering Services. We used to call it the statement of work. And you're going to prepare the independent government estimate. That's the first step. Once you have done that part with your team, whatever you need to put that together, the next thing that happens is it goes back to the PM on the project because it's now got a price tag, your independent government estimate, and that PM goes back to the client that's going to pay the bill to get the funds. Now, if it's in-house, you may already have the funds in the bank, and that step may not be necessary because we've got our pot of money and it comes out of your job order. When the PM gets back the promise to pay or some guarantee of funding from the client, at that point in time, they can submit it to acquisitions. They can push the electronic contract action request, ECR, electronic contract request. Your PM is responsible for doing that. That's what takes your statement of work, your IGE, and the promise to pay, and transmits it to acquisitions to Stephen's shop. Stephen then will accept that and assign it to a contract specialist. At that point in time, there's some email traffic that goes back to your PM and the DM. Both names are important to upstairs. And you know that it's now in the hands of acquisition. And somewhere in the 1 to 3 day time frame, your statement of work is transmitted to the architect for pricing, to the firm. Pricing comes back, and we go through the eval process, negotiations. I'm only showing one round of negotiations because typically it's a one-shot deal. Some of them get more complicated than that. But generally speaking, we do our evaluation. We they get approval to negotiate. We have the negotiation session. We come out of there with what the government and the AE agree is reasonable, and we get a final price. Goes back to the PM, who gets the funds in the bank. If you have to have a funding document, you'll see these are some pretty big times. Funds are accepted at LANT. It's typically taking 21 days to get funds accepted. That's a long time for it to be sitting there, and we're just waiting. We have no control over that. When it comes back, then we can award the AE task order. So I want you to understand, if you're new to this side of the business, the time that it takes to make this happen. And what's the average, what's the expectation? Stephen Shop has said, for when you give it to us, you can expect 60 days to award. But remember, there's a lot of stuff that has to happen before it can get up to Stephen's group. So when you think 60 days, that's after we have a statement of work and an IGE and the funds guarantee. So sometimes that takes us a little time. You know, sometimes these are a month to get the statement of work pulled together. We may not know enough to know what we want. So now you're ready to write your SAES, the Statement of Architectural Engineering Services. We've got templates that came down from LANT that are the templates we're to use for these actions. They are filed at this website, and we'll make sure you get a copy of all of this. It's in the card folder on the P drive. The LANT templates are very inclusive. They include everything and anything. They're about 60 pages long. We have taken that, and we have in this next one, the ones that have been edited for Southeast. We've taken out all the stuff that doesn't apply to anything in Southeast, and I think it's down to about 42 pages. That's a lot to edit. I would suggest the very first time you do one, you really do need to go through that and see all of the things that you need to think about as you're putting together a statement of work. There's some obscure stuff in there that doesn't apply to every project, but it might stick in the back of your mind for the next one. Hey, I don't necessarily need U.S. people only this time, but maybe next time I'm working in a SCIF in a restricted area at Kings Bay, and I am going to have U.S. workers. I don't know. But you need to just know what's in there. A lot of people have abbreviated statements of work that they use. We are, at this point, you know, these templates are designed for buying AE services when you're having them do an RFP or a full plans and specs. A lot of our actions are for support of in-house design, and we have our special site survey and geotech and cost estimating in our attachments, our NAVFAC attachments. Right now we are taking that 40-page template, and Ted is working on boiling it down to as few pages as possible so that it's the cover sheet that says, basically, we're doing in-house design, we need you to give us this data. So that should be available in the next week. That should make it significantly easier for about half of our task orders. Things to think about. Make sure you put both who the project manager is, because they're the ones that are going to submit it to acquisitions, and your name, because you're going to be the one that's doing the technical evaluation. So acquisitions needs to know who their points of contact are. A few things that we've seen, you know, we aren't always giving good schedules in there. We need to tell the AE how much time they have to do this effort, because that affects price proposal and what they can do and what they can't do. So if you've got, I need this survey by January 1st, put it in there if there's a hard date, and back into it and say, hey, we need to award by this date in order to make that schedule. Okay, so the thing is, you know, site-specific information and times that it takes to do things. You've got resources in the PWD. If you haven't worked at that basin, you don't know. There are, you know, ask somebody else that's done a Mayport project. You know, there's always people that can't figure out how to get to the right people. But any information you can give them, like dig permits that are required, here's the point of contact, that's stuff that we should do, and I think I put that in there on base-specific requirements. If it takes certain security clearances to get there, or it's at Guantanamo, and you got to allow a month to travel there, we should spell that out so the AE knows what they're getting into. Remember that now, in today's environment, you know, we in the past had our AOR architects and engineers. So we were asking the same people to go to Guantanamo or go to Pensacola or go to, and so they kind of knew the drill if they'd been with us very, very long. In today's environment, we're using all of our architects and engineers for the full area. That's all right. We also pay attention. One thing to point out to you is our standard template says we want 6 hard copies of everything for every submittal. And you may not want to shred all that yourself when you get all this stuff. So pay attention if you need any hard copies. Some of the interim submittals, maybe we want 1 copy of just the plans in case you have to go make a presentation or talk to somebody about it. But that's a big thing that you need to make sure you edit as you're doing your statement of work and think about. Once you've got your statement of work, you should be able to just move forward into your independent government estimate. All efforts require a signed independent government estimate. It's a requirement of the FAR, right? FAR. So put together your estimate, PDF the front sheet, put an electronic signature on it, whatever you want to do a cover letter, however you want it. But when you send it over to your PM, they're going to have some sort of a signature on the thing and an IGE in the, you're going to need to send the Excel workbook for the acquisitions folks to use it. One suggestion that I've heard from others, once you set up your template specifically for your engineering services, before you start putting numbers in there, save a blank copy of that's got the heading on it of what project it is and your summary of what you're going to fill out if you're making anything. Then that gives a clean copy for the acquisitions person to send to the AE. It's easier to work with maybe. We currently use the 4-column spreadsheet. Column 1 is the IGE, column 2 is the AE proposal, then your pre-negotiation position and your post-negotiation result. We will be going to a different form of workbook. I'll go ahead and prepare the way for that because LANT has come out with an AE workbook that we are currently taking the training class on how to use it. That's how fun it is. So it's really, really big. And it's maybe very easy to use once we learn the tricks and learn how to pare it down. But some of the other FECs have said if it's not $250,000, use your simplified version. So if you've got a $5 million AE fee, it's very easy to use. It rolls up well and it has some good things. But if it's just site survey and geotech, it looks really complicated for that. So we're working on that. We've got 3 new AE small business contracts that are under negotiation right now. We will be developing the workbook for the first one of those and testing it. And as soon as we know how to use it and that it works, we'll roll it out to you guys and do some training. The current templates, everybody's in there in the P drive folder. There's one for all 4 of our current contracts. If, as you're going through the estimating process, you find any error in the template formulas, please let Raymond know so that we can correct it, so the next person has a corrected version. Stuff changes, and there's stuff in there. So I had a lot of questions on, well, how do I know what it's going to cost? Well, maybe you do this for a living and you know what it would take. We're buying what we can't do in-house because we don't have the bandwidth or the capacity. So if you were doing it yourself, how many hours would you need? That's a starting place. If you've done it before or you've bought it before, site survey and geotech comes to mind. We buy that all the time. We probably have some historical data. You can use that as the basis for your estimate. Ask somebody else. There's also a NAVFAC rules of thumb that we're using for in-house estimates that you may have seen. I know Oscar has a copy of it posted to his wall. It's got, based on the design strategy and the submittal stage, what percentage of the estimated cost of construction you should be looking at and how many hours you should be allocating. Ask other people that have done it. Everybody has a different method. It's like cost estimating. Some of us, Mike might say, well, that's going to take 25 sheets and I would give this many hours per sheet. I don't estimate that way. I estimate based on, it's a design build RFP over $3 million. I would guess 2%, and I'm going to back into a number. So, you know, it's an art, not a science. A few things that you may or may not understand terminology-wise. You'll hear direct cost and indirect cost. Direct costs are ones that are, they benefit just this task order. Those are the costs that you're going to have in your IGE. The indirect costs that are overhead, profits, all these salaries and administrative staff, they're not working on your project on this effort. Those are in an overhead factor that's negotiated by Stevens folks. So that's already in your loaded rates. One example of this is sometimes we see proposals that come back where they want to bill us for the principal of the firm. And it's like, okay, is the principal working on this project? If the answer is no, I'm not paying for that. They're not part of the billable hours for this project. That's part of their indirect cost. So you may hear that in negotiations. You'll also hear front side and back side. That's a government unique issue because of the fact that we have a statutory limit that we can only pay 6% for direct design. That's part of originally the Brooks Act. It's now it's changed names, Architect Engineering Professional Services, something. So your estimate has direct design and then it has engineering services. The direct design, you're going to be putting in someplace in your forms the estimated cost of construction. That's a piece that you put in your statement of work. That gives everybody the limit for that direct design piece. So you need to be accurate in that. And that 6% limit is for the initial effort and any mods that come along the way. So don't expect to be able to award the task order right at the 6% limit. Not going to happen. You're going to have some cushion for what if something happens, something changes, and you have to mod the design, and it doesn't affect price. Backside, is your supporting effort, meetings, flow tests, geotech, hazmat, commissioning, FF&E packages. The travel is different. Travel it is backside, but it's a direct charge. It's a direct charge. Yeah, it's not in the 6%, and it's not something we pay profit on. I think I got that next. Maybe not. Maybe the next. Technical evaluation. You've got your price in. They've sent it down to you. It has the transmittal from the AE and their price proposal. Just some guiding principles. We are awarding based on level of effort, not price. So doesn't matter if you estimated $100,000 and they came in at 99. You can't just say award it. We have to do our technical analysis to make sure that we are buying what we asked for, that they are meeting the needs of the statement of work. So we are verifying that their price proposal includes everything we said we wanted in the statement of work and meets the deliverable schedule. Your evaluation gives the acquisitions people the pre-negotiation position and identifies anything that's missing in the GE. We've all had errors and omissions, and anything that we need to do to move forward to discuss and negotiate. Gave you some definitions of what is a technical evaluation straight out of the FAR, and some more terminology. But basically, we're giving our technical opinion to contracting as to why this does or does not give the appropriate professional service to the government for our project. Everybody still awake? All right. First thing you want to do is review that cover sheet. Yeah, I know it's tedious, but a lot of times our AE sends in scope assumptions. You need to read those. Maybe they said, we can't do this on your schedule, we're going to deliver it 6 months later. That's key to whether it's acceptable or not. Some of our clients, DLA comes to mind. They have approved the statement of work to say, yes, this is what we want. If there are scope assumptions that come back that modify that, you may need to send them to them for their concurrence. That's not really applicable to in-house design support because we're the recipients of it and we can decide whether it meets our needs or not. But it could be a big deal. BUMED is a big one, DODEA is one, some of these special clients that have their own rules. You want to make sure that you're not going to get surprised later. The acquisitions people also need you to tell them in your evaluation about any special considerations for this project or any complexity so that they know how to do the profit determination. You know, is there a reason that we should pay more profit because there's some complexity or there's some special circumstance? We already talked about front side, back side. Your tech evaluation, this is the key. You discuss any item where the proposal varies significantly from the IGE. Had questions before, what's significant? Well, you're going to have to determine that. If you're going through, we're 1 hour off or 2 hours off? Probably not. Depends on the magnitude of the difference. If in doubt, ask your 1102 how they see it. Is this okay to just accept it? Do we need to talk about this? They will help you with this. We do have to do a line-by-line analysis in our head of the proposal. But if you're going along going, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good, that's good, you don't have to write that up. Ooh, got a difference here. Why is that? Can I accept that or not? If you said 5 hours and the AE proposal came in with 500 hours, obviously you're going to say, what's up? You know, that's more than significant. If their scope assumption didn't tell you anything that explains why the difference is there, then I don't know why they want more. So my pre-negotiation position is I still think it's 5 hours, and we want to discuss that. Now, when you get into discussions, they're going to state their case, and you may say, ooh, I didn't think about that. I didn't think about that. That's okay. That's what the whole discussion process is all about. A few things I gave you just thought process. Your initial look at it, you've got more hours than the AE does. Is that right or wrong? I don't know. But some things to look at, did you guess that did you estimate they were using junior level people and they're using senior level people that are more productive? That could be the difference. Did you think it was going to be every discipline and they don't think they need a structural on this, or they don't think they need fire protection? Maybe that's okay, maybe you need to discuss it. So looking for those gaps, looking for those things that's why is it different? What if you had less hours than what they're proposing? Well, it could be the reverse. You know, they're using junior people, you thought you put it all as senior people. What's the rule of thumb? I don't know. You know, it depends on the specialty. Is a junior person 50% less productive than a senior? You're just going to have to give it your best technical expertise. We don't have names on these things. Same thing there. Is the AE new to this base? They may need more hours because they got to learn the base. They got to learn where to go, what the rules are. If they've worked 50 projects at Pensacola, that's not a concern. If this one's at Pensacola, if they've never been there before and this is a new AE, it could be that they've got a case for more hours. And again, as I said before, if there's nothing obvious, your negotiating position is your GE, because nothing has changed your opinion than you thought before. When you move back to engineering services, it's pretty much the same. Am I higher than the AE? Maybe they left something out. Maybe they missed a sub in their quote. Maybe I thought there was going to be geotech and they don't have that in there. So I need to talk about that. Is there a reason? Did they say something in their scope assumption? We don't need to do what you're asking for because we've already got this, or something that's a reasonable effort. One of the biggest things I've always seen is how many people are attending all the meetings. There's a big cost to design reviews. So if you are thinking there's a concept, a kickoff meeting, a 50% effort and 100%, and they're showing concept of 35, 6,500, you're going to have a disparity in how it goes together. Same thing with numbers of people. You've got hours in there. You estimated they were sending 4 people to a design review, and they're bringing 6. Maybe that's right, maybe that's not. But it's things that you need to look at as you're analyzing the proposal. Maybe some of our old markup sheets have sub-markup in there. We are getting away from paying a 5% markup on subs, and we are saying to the AE, look, the sub and the profit, you're giving us a sub quote, and then we're going to pay you the hours it takes for you to contract that work and manage that work. If you got to have a project manager involved for 4 hours to find a sub and set up a contract and somebody else we pay for those hours. So you would expect to see hours, not a markup. Does that make sense? Yeah. Well, that's you will make money on it. You know, we will pay for your time directly and you'll make profit on your people. But you're not going to make profit on the sub, on the pass-through, I believe is the approach. This is where I had it. Other direct charges, you're also going to be looking at reproduction. If you didn't ask for any hard copies, I wouldn't expect to see any copies on that page. You know, if you said none, if you said I just want electronic, if you didn't even ask for any CDs, you probably do need a final set or a set for construction because the field always needs hard copies. Here's your travel. There's no profit on travel. We, as the technical people, are looking at, do the number of trips agree with the number of meetings and the number of people? Do all the numbers track? The right people are going to the right meetings. The rates are validated upstairs by acquisition. So you don't need to be Googling, well, what's the plane fare from Jacksonville to Pensacola? Is that a reasonable flight? Those types of things. Or do they have the right per diem? Or do they have the right hotel rate? Or the right mileage rate? That's not our piece. We don't need to do that. But we do need to talk about the right people going the right way. Format for your tech eval, just want to put this out for you, and we've got like a template or a how to follow thing I think that Raymond has put in the card folder. But please, on the top of your tech eval, put the pertinent information. Make a header, do it however you want to do, but you know, when it gets upstairs and we're reviewing stuff and you're looking at tech eval, it's like, I wonder what this goes with. Doesn't have contract action, doesn't have your name, who prepared it, doesn't have anything. So just put the information up there so that it can stay attached to the right effort. And if you pull your old one to edit for the next one, update it. Yeah, make sure you change it. Make sure you change it is a good thing. Yeah. I pulled a couple of just examples just to throw some things out for you. You know, tech eval is not a cookie cutter effort. I'm really sorry. Can't say, here you go, take one from column A, one from column B. It is, every proposal is unique and every situation is different. I've not seen two that are alike. So in this particular one, and I've got them separated, I apologize that you can't see it very well, but I wanted to show that this is the 4-column format, so this is the spreadsheet that you'll send back to your 1102. Person that did this one highlighted, this is what I'm talking about. So in this case, the IGE was 16, the hours were 2, and I think somebody in here might recognize this one. And we're proposing back, they need 8. And the write-up that went along with that, so you can say, hey, I don't think they got enough. So in this particular one, we said, you know what? The way you've got it spread out, there's no way that's enough to do the quality review and all of the things we're asking you to do. We think you're going to need more hours than that. May not be 16, but 8. So that would be a discussion point. I just want to point out to you that, you know, this is an explanation for acquisitions. Why you don't agree with what the architect said or what the proposal says. I would suggest if I said 16 and they came back with 2, I need to address why I think 2 is okay, if that's acceptable. Another one, 4-column format again. the review of this, we said 40 hours of electrical engineering. They said none. We came back with, well, we would like to see at least 16. This happened to be a lighting project. So the question was, hey, don't you think there's electrical necessary for this effort? Now, it was airfield lighting, and it was a redo. And so, can't remember the whole thing, but I think it came back with, well, we really think our civil that does utilities can do the electrical piece of this because there's nothing extending. And we said, yeah, Joseph is shaking his head. So, we said, no, we would feel a lot more comfortable there's an electrical engineer doing this part. So you're going to find things like that. Maybe it was just an oversight on their part, but you write it up, and there's a couple different things here. In this case, we had more, because we do things in-house, we don't tend to put a lot in CAD because we don't do it that way in-house anymore. We're getting better, but so it might be that some of the stuff we had in the disciplines for the engineers, the firm is able to do with a CAD tech. So they've got a whole lot more hours in CAD and a whole lot less in the engineering. And level of effort is there. These were just a few. This was a study. I don't know why I put that one in there. This particular one, proposal review identified the government estimate includes efforts for survey and geotech, AE determined or not required. Somewhere in their scope assumptions, they said, you're asking for survey and geotech, we've already got it, and here's where we found it and why we don't think you need to repeat that piece. Sometimes they know things that we don't know. So it is a collaborative effort. Once you get through the tech eval process and your 1102 is in agreement with everything and has no questions, which hopefully is an easy process if you've just, this is different than what I thought, and you've explained it, then the Stephen staff is going to be writing up the pre-negotiation memorandum. They actually write up a document that gets signed by Stephen or someone up there in order to be able to be approved to go to negotiations. Then they're going to call you and say, okay, can you be up here on Tuesday to do the negotiations? If you have not done negotiations, it's a very open dialogue with the AE. The contracting person will set up the discussion. It's a phone discussion. Generally, you go to their conference room or their office. The starting point, the document that we talk from, is their P&M, which is your 4-column spreadsheet. And it's the ones I've been in, we go straight down, okay, accept. We want to talk about this one. You said 12, we think it should be 6. Tell us why you think it needs to be 12. And if they say, well, blah, 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 and you accept it, then the acquisition person is going to be filling out that post-negotiation column right there and keeping notes. So, maybe they have a case for why it's more hours. And we say, okay, we agree. Or maybe we say, we'll compromise at 9. There's a lot of negotiating going on. Most of the time, the AEs are very amenable when we say, that sounds really high. Why is that? We don't see it that way. Most of the time, they're agreeable. I haven't had a lot of pushback on a lot of things that are explainable. What else was I going to say? If it's over $750,000, your fee, Raymond will be in the negotiation with you. We're attempting to get consistency with all of our AEs and with all of our designers. We've now got a lot of people doing these things. And the warranted officer upstairs will be in there too. So, if you've never done one and you don't feel comfortable doing it, ask somebody else to go with you. It's not a scary process at all. And the bottom line is, we're spending our tax dollars, and we want to make sure that we get best value for our efforts, and we get what we need. So once you've been through negotiations, you've got a final price, looks like it's moving forward to award. There's one more piece that needs to happen before any award can happen, and that is the COR nomination process. If it's over $250,000, before they can award it, we have to have a contracting officer's representative in place. As designers, I know last, I want to say October or so, I sent around the instructions for how to do your DD 577. That's the form, and you have to have done training. The CLC 106 is the online training class. There's also a CTC something that fills the requirement too. 342, okay, which is the core training. It was just given a couple months ago here in Jacksonville. Ethics and the trafficking, that's the traffic in persons, right? And I think there's also a cyber awareness that's required now too. So, you got to have some training and you got to be in the system. These are the same things you're going to have to do to be able to pay the bills. So you get initiated in the system and you will go on to the system and you will put in your the contract number and the task order number, which you should already know from everything that's gone on. And you will say, I want to self-nominate myself to be the COR on this, and it will go to your supervisor next. And it'll say, I think you picked the supervisor, maybe. You can only find myself or Philip at the moment.
Right, okay.
So, yeah, I've been approving a lot of them. That's fine. When Philip gets back, he's definitely in your direct chain.
Right.
So, until we can get, it's a system thing. Until we can get Tim, then we can't get, until Tim is in, we can't get the chiefs. Till the chiefs are in, you can't get your direct supervisor. So we're working down the chain. But for now, if you need to self-nominate, feel free to put me or Philip as your choice for supervisor approval. As soon as one of us says you're approved, it goes to your contracting person, and they then will send you the COR nomination letter that you sign and return back. PMs are not CORs. PMs are not CORs. The designer that's issuing the task order is the COR, because you are the one that's going to be managing the AE. You are the one that's going to be inspecting their invoices and saying, yes, we've got the product, and doing the design reviews. We're going to cover all that in the post-award AE training next month. So now you know the basic process. It's documented. I don't think anybody looks like they had an aha moment as we went through this. You have questions? I put Raymond and Stephen's numbers up there so that you can come see me anytime. If I can help, I'm happy to. As I said, next month we're going to do the post-award process, and happy to talk about anything you want to talk about. We can stop our recording process and then have open dialogue.